Welcome to the first Jackson Music Program Q&A session, where we'll be talking about music wellness, learning music, music lessons, music teachers, and how you and your family can get the most benefits of music by harnessing its 7 uses. And so after teaching about 10,000 lessons now as a music teacher, here are some of the most common questions that I've been asked. Number 1, what stops people from learning music? This is a good one. The thing that I noticed the most is there's a stigma of being good or some fear of being labeled as not good. There's this myth that studying music, pursuing music in your life is only for professional performing, touring musicians or people who are making music the forefront of their life. And it's just not the case. And unfortunately, it stops people from allowing music into their life in order to get its benefits. And then you throw on the stigma that comes from all the reality shows, and as entertaining and in some ways encouraging as they can be, for the most part, they are discouraging. Especially the singing shows that are more about ridiculing people who don't have classically pleasing sounding voices. And this fear of not being good stops people from picking up an instrument in the first place. And it's just going to prevent any of the benefits from coming in. So if I could change one thing about people's perceptions of music, it's that you don't need to be a performing musician. You don't need to even really care about music other than knowing that it's a beneficial thing. And then being able to allow it and welcome it into your life, and you're going to be getting benefits from it immediately. So try not to let other people's opinions come into your pursuit of how you want music in your life. We're so sensitive to what other people have to say that one negative comment can totally derail someone from having music in their life. So be careful what you say when your kids are showing interest in music. Be sure to be supportive. And likewise, one good comment can really have a big impact. I remember in my first couple years of learning to play instruments, I played drums at first, and I was in the pep band in the high school playing at a basketball game on the drum set. And I remember practicing and preparing to play my first drum fill for weeks. And I was so excited. I knew I could do it. I'd do it all these different kinds of drum fills at home, but I never had the courage to play a drum fill in public until this one night where in the middle of a song, I threw in the tiniest of a drum fill. It was a 1-beat 16th note drum fill that lasted for maybe a third of a second, and I had to really build myself up for that moment. And I did it, and I wasn't sure if anybody was even going to notice or what they thought. But then as somebody was walking out of the gymnasium, they said to me, "Hey man, that was a cool thing you did on the drums there." And I still remember that to this day, and this was probably 25 years ago. So that comment really did a lot for me in allowing myself to jump out and let myself be a musician, go after what I want. Second question I most commonly get asked is, how long does it take to learn an instrument? And this can vary on instrument level, instrument choice, your level of experience, and the amount of time that you're going to be able to put into it at home. For younger kids, usually around 7 and under, and especially for toddler ages, the instruments that I recommend, they have the best effect to start with, are vocals, drums, piano, and ukulele. So for just about anyone, those are the 4 instruments that I recommend to start with. But it's about finding a connection with your personality and your interests and what you want from music. So once you can pick that first instrument to start learning, then you're off for the races, and every new instrument becomes easier and easier. To give a little bit of perspective, it takes usually about 6 to 12 months to start seeing progress on your instrument. And this is something where you're just starting to connect notes together, connect phrases of notes together, maybe playing some short songs or sections of songs. In the beginning, it's not about trying to play a bunch of songs. It's about getting the concepts. So if you can spend that first year really getting into the fundamentals of music, then every 6 months after that, with some consistent playing, you're going to be seeing exponential improvement. And then within 1 to 3 years, you can look back on yourself and just as a totally different musician. But when you're first starting, be prepared to give it at least 6 to 12 months before you make any evaluations about the effectiveness of the path you have, which also, again, involves instrument choice, your plan for at home, the teacher you have, and where you want to take your musical path. But give it that first year of really sinking into your instrument and the fundamentals to give it a good chance. And then as you're pursuing your path, how should you go about learning music? There's lots of ways these days, lots of online things, in-person teachers, remote learning, tremendous things you can find on YouTube, some of them more helpful and professional than others. But it's an effective music path is going to be guided by your interests and where you want to go. So the first thing I recommend is get in touch with what you want from music, what interests you about music, write everything down, where you want to see yourself in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, how you want music to be in your life. And this helps to give you a vision of where you want to go with your music. When you have a vision, it's much easier to see how things you bring in are going to be either supportive or not with that vision. So what kind of teachers you bring in, what kind of instruments, what kind of goals you set for yourself. As that vision becomes more clear, you can pursue a certain kind of music teacher to help you in your vision. And there's lots of kinds of music teachers that you could explore. When you, the right teacher can help you find the right plan for how to get the most out of music and do it the most efficiently and the most fun, which is the most important thing. So getting that learning plan that's customized to you is very motivating, and it's going to help keep your interests along the way. So find a teacher that can help you develop the right musical growth plan for you, your kids, whoever wants to partake and get the benefits of music. No matter if you have a teacher or you're going to traditional lessons of some sort, private or group lessons, whatever your plan is, you also want to have a nice, enriching home environment for music. So having a music space, having quality instruments that are tuned, that are easy accessible and ready to play. Especially for kids, because you want them to develop that comfort and that ease with instruments and with music from early on. Expose them to music right out of the womb, even before then, and get them comfortable with experiencing music, participating in it, and making it their own. Once you have this environment and you got a plan in place, you can find the right learning path, the right teachers, then you need some instruments. So another great question that I get asked is, how do you find quality instruments to start with? And the technology has grown so much, where there's so much to choose from. The best thing I recommend is getting your hands on instruments. So going to your local music store and talking with them there about their recommendations, and most importantly, touching the instruments. You gotta get a feel for what's good in your hands, the sound and the feel of the types of instruments that you like to hold and play. And that's the best way to get a feel for if the instrument is quality or not, because you can spend a lot of ranges of money on an instrument. Let's take ukuleles for an example. You can find ukuleles from $30 all the way up to $500, $1,000, $1,500. And when you're first starting out, you want something that's easy to play. It feels good in your fingers. It sounds good. And it's encouraging. It's something that you're attracted to want to pick up and play. So getting your hands on the instrument gives you that best feel for what you want. On the example of ukuleles, for toddlers and young kids, I recommend getting around a $50 to $60, up to about an $80 ukulele, because this will give you the quality and the craftsmanship, the better sound that will be more motivating to want to play, and a little bit better design that will be more durable for kids, as well as it's not too expensive, so that way if one of these first instruments inevitably breaks, which is usually the case for a first ukulele with a toddler, you're prepared for that and you know the plan of how you're going to be leveling up within a couple of years. And that generally applies to adults and teens as well. As I recommend getting a first instrument. If you have no experience with an instrument, you're not sure if you're going to like it or not, get one that's not the cheapest, but in the mid-range, maybe low to mid-range, price-wise, so that way you're getting something of quality, but isn't going to put you out too much on funds, so that way you can evaluate whether you want to continue with the instrument, if it fits with your personality and your goals or not, or you want to move on to something different. If you're going to keep that instrument in your repertoire, then be prepared to upgrade that instrument within 1 to 3 years. So that way you're continuing to grow with instrument possibilities and instrument ease, and the sound of the instrument, that'll grow along with your skill level and your interests that grow with music. Once you can get a handle on what instrument you like, then if you can find it at that local music store, I always encourage that the most, so we can support our local small businesses. But that being said, there's also a lot of online options available as well, and some that are very trustworthy. And my all-time favorite online resource is sweetwater.com. They have the best customer service I've ever run into. And if I were ever to consider taking a sponsor or to run some sort of ads on my channel, which I've never done yet, Sweetwater might be the first one I would consider, because they're that good of a business, how they run things, and their customer support, and the quality of instruments you can find. So I would recommend going to Sweetwater first. Other good ones that I've been to are musiciansfriend.com, which is like the same parent owner as Guitar Center. And these are bigger names, especially Guitar Center as a big box brand, and their customer support is pretty good, and that the availability of where you can find them is really well done. You can find them just about everywhere. And they encourage you to play instruments. So it's another good resource to go and get your hands on some instruments to help find what you want. And then, of course, your family. If your family's got instruments, those are great to pass down to the newer generations. Gives them some nostalgia, some connection to family. One thing you want to consider with handing down instruments is how they've been stored and the condition of the instrument. If it's been sitting open to the air in a dusty attic for 30 years, it's probably not going to be the best to play right off the bat, and you don't want to give it to a young kid, have it be all crusty and grimy and unfun to play, and then that forms their image and their perception about what it's like to play music instruments. So if you're going to hand something down, which I strongly encourage, just bring it to a local music store if you need help with, have them run through it, give it a tune up, maybe some new strings if it needs, and check out the body. When you're looking for instruments, you want to check for that the body is all intact, that there's no cracks, the strings, the frets, the keys, anything involved in the mechanisms of the instrument are working properly and aren't rusted or crusty or grimy. With stringed instruments, especially, the intonation or the fretting, how you can actually make a note, can be kind of deceiving and can be a difficult thing to know what to look for. On the example of ukuleles, you can find very gorgeous looking ukuleles at a very affordable price. You can find $30 and $40 ukuleles that visually just blow everything else out of the water, and it's naturally to gravitate towards them, thinking that they're going to be a more fun instrument. But usually the case is the quality is lower on those. If something is at a price point which is the bottom level, but the look of the instrument looks like it's at more of a top level, there's usually a mismatch there. So I would stay away from those brands and find something that just looks modest, but you can play it very clearly and easily, especially all the frets. On ukuleles, for example, the first fret usually doesn't play if you're on a low quality ukulele. So check that first fret, make sure you can play on all the different strings. And if you can, then you usually have a good choice. Well, thanks for joining this first ever Jack's Music Program Q&A session. I hope you enjoyed the information that we talked about, and I appreciate all of your questions that you submitted in preparation for this. I'm excited to do the next one. Leave a comment or a message with your questions about music wellness, playing music, learning music, finding music teachers, instruments, how to bond with your family through music, how to create better relationships through music with your partner, with your kids. Whatever you're interested, leave it in a comment, and I am excited to address it in the next video. Stay tuned for more music wellness, and get out there and go play. Take care.